Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you. It's Compass Games Live for Thursday, April 30th. I hope you're having a great week so far, and we've got actually action-packed schedule for today. So I want to thank all those that have joined us on Facebook and YouTube. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you. It's Compass Games Live for Thursday, April 30th. Sorry about that. That didn't work. Great week so far, and we've got actually action-packed. One second. I know what the problem is. So I want to thank all those that have joined us on Facebook and YouTube. Oh, I know what the problem is. Sorry about that. That didn't work. I'm going to edit that out. Is what I'm going to do. 1 second. I know what the problem is. There we go. That's not going to work. I know what the problem is. All right. Let's try again. You can't have a second browser window open with Facebook because you're going to hear the volume carry over you. So live and learn, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to cover the release schedule tonight. And again, thanks for those that are watching the recorded session. Obviously, we won't be able to answer any comments live, but for any comments, I'll be sure to answer them. After this airs, I can still reply to comments afterwards during the replay. So what we're going to do to start things right off the bat is we're going to go through a release schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen very quickly here. So let me go ahead and do that. And here we go. So what I'd like to do is give a quick update as far as projects. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here also just a little bit. So there we go. So the schedule's a little bit easier to see now. So we're going to go through, we just updated it earlier today as far as our release schedule through July. So for the next several months, next 3 months specifically. So just focusing on the left column as far as what we're going to have releasing next month, actually starting tomorrow, will be Dawn of Empire. So Dawn of Empire will be shipping tomorrow. That will be our first release for May, followed by Decision at Kasserine. That's the designer signature edition of the game by Vance von Voorhees, which was originally published by 3W, had a nice box edition. Hobby Japan picked it up as well. And we're doing a new edition with some refinements and enhancements to the system. At some point, hopefully, we can have Vance on to do an interview, but we'll definitely talk more about that game when it's shipping. And it's not going to be shipping. It's not going to be a long wait anymore. Next, we have Brief Border Wars. Brief Border Wars will be also shipping in the month of May. That's a quad game by Brian Train, something I've covered in the past. So we're also very excited about that. And then to round out May, so we actually have 4 items in May. We have a player's guide. So it's for Russia Besieged. Russia Besieged is a very popular World War II title. A lot of folks playing it, enjoying the game. So yeah, why not do a player's aid guide as well? So that will be all shipping next month. And then again, starting tomorrow will be Dawn of Empire. We've got too much to cover tonight, especially with our special guests that I'll be introducing here shortly. So I won't have time to go through all the various web pages to show you those products that we're announcing that are shipping in the next 3 months, but we'll definitely cover them in a future episode. Then this is a release that a lot of people have been waiting for, which has been on Kickstarter, and that's our science fiction release, large game, Stellar Horizons. So that'll be our first release in June, followed by Brotherhood and Unity, which was also featured on Kickstarter. And then we have, rounding out June, we have Paper Wars issue 95 with Hannibal. And if you go to most of the product pages that we're talking about here, I've updated artwork for nearly all the product pages. So you should see, if you haven't been on the product pages in a while, you might see some new map art, some new counter art. For example, Paper Wars Hannibal has additional artwork as well. So we've gone ahead and updated the product pages as best we could. So that rounds out June. And then we get into middle of July, midsummer. We have Dawn's Early Light, which is actually currently available as a Kickstarter. So you'll notice here, if I just go here really quickly, we'll go ahead and just refresh the page. And Kickstarter has 15 more days to go. And again, it's very popular. It's going to be a very popular title, card-driven game, 2-player game. And again, check out the Kickstarter page. It's also on our website for further information. So that game will be shipping in July, followed by a add-on expansion for Command and Colors Tricorn, and that's Jacobite Rising. So Jacobite Rising for Commands and Colors Tricorn, that will be also released in July. And then finally, we just had to push it back just a little bit because there's the rules are pretty long, lengthy to go through, and a lot of charts and tables. So the Korean War is making headway. Counters and maps are already done, but we want to have additional time for the charts and tables for Korean War, and also for the rule booklet, just to make sure, we don't want to rush it out. We want to make sure we just get it just right. So we're just going to bump that out to July as well, just to make sure we're not rushing through anything. So that is a pretty packed schedule for the next 3 months. So 4 releases in May, 3 releases in June, and 3 releases in July. One thing I want to mention about our website is we made a change, and that is we took away a lot of the pre-order dates for a lot of the games. Obviously, when we announce a pre-order, more often than not, we'll actually ship the game within a year of it being announced on pre-order. There will be exceptions for very large games, namely Third World War series with 6 maps, 8 counter sheets. That's going to take more than a year. Hitler's Last Gamble has been going through playtesting and extensive development until just recently. So now we're doing artwork for that game. So some games have a longer runway, but most titles we have, they're pretty much are going to be able to be released within, say, 12 to 15 months. That's pretty much average. That's pretty much what our run rate is as far as getting games out the door. And some people have asked, do you do the Kickstarter to make sure the game can get released? And actually, no, we just do a Kickstarter for what we consider more of a crossover game, a game that's not like 100% hex-based war game, but something that might appeal to the war game / Euro gamer, if that makes sense. So those that are maybe more on Board Game Geek looking at Euro games, etc., with our mounted map games, card-driven games, etc. Certain titles, we do have them on our website, so you can just pre-order them there. But we also then put them on Kickstarter, like we've done with Dawn's Early Light. So now it's on Kickstarter, and some have pre-ordered it already from our website. That's just another venue for us to sort of get the word out marketing-wise. And then as far as pre-orders go, we don't use pre-orders or Kickstarter to hit a certain level to release a game. Every commitment we make, we will publish the game up front. That's just how we operate. Everything's a firm commitment. We're not looking for certain numbers to decide if we're going to publish or not. We just publish. So I hope that information helps as far as the next 9 releases. One thing I also want to mention is I spoke with the office, and we're going to extend our sale. We have actually 2 different sales going on, 2 different sales events right now, which are scheduled to end tomorrow night on May 1st. And that is, we have, as you can see here, save 33% on several items that we added. These are more recent releases, but also we have a full barrel, like 70 plus titles that have 40% off with a coupon code, using the coupon code 40% off at checkout. And you can see the whole list of games here. Spoke with the office today, spoke with Bill Thomas, and we made the decision, or he decided rather, that he wants to extend the sale through end of this weekend. So he wants to give everybody through end of the weekend to take their time, think about any last products they'd like to pick up at special savings. So that's basically what we're doing. So again, we're really excited about being able to offering all these special prices. We know a lot of people are sort of holed up at home. Lifestyle changes a little bit, work-life balance situation. So we hope there's a few titles. I know some people have picked up some titles, and we really appreciate that. And we hope that that's helping you as well. So that covers pretty much what I want to cover as far as talking about major updates for today. So we went through the release schedule update. We covered basically the next 3 months through July. Again, on the website, any future pre-orders, you won't see a date necessarily anymore. We'll just sort of add those dates as we get closer to that release date. But again, rest assured, we're trying to hit that clip level of every 12 to 15 months. That's how much time it takes to usually get games out. Sometimes games will get out actually a lot faster. And we do have some games that are going to go on pre-order that I know will be out maybe as soon as 6 months after we do the pre-order launch. So just thought I wanted to share that really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing for a moment. And what I want to do is I want to introduce at this point our special guest for today's session. You all know who he is. He's actually been on before. So I want to bring in Bruce Maxwell to the discussion. So Bruce, how are you doing this evening?
Very well. Thank you, John. And yourself?
We're real good. Thanks. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I know we're gonna do a project update with you tonight. So what I'd like to do is, and I'll do some screen sharing to show some of the components as well. Let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and actually bring up one of those games right now, the main game that we want to talk about, which is NATO. So let me go ahead and bring that up here for a moment. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we'll go back to you here in a moment. So let me just bring it up so everybody knows what we're talking about. So there we go. So can you give us, it's been a few months since we talked about NATO, and for those that have been on these sessions before or watched the recordings where we spoke earlier, we did talk a little bit about how your approach changed from initially was going to be on 83, it was going to replicate the original NATO release from Victory Games that you then discovered through some Order of Battle updates, all this research material becoming available. You found out that play balance did change quite a bit for 83. So can you walk us through again, just sort of revisit with us, how the design has sort of shifted over time?
So I'm happy to do that, but I think what will be of interest to your audience is not just the impact on the game, but in fact what we're learning from history. I grew up in the middle of the Cold War, hide under your desk during the nuclear blast kind of stuff. And the story was always that if the Pact attacked us, within 3 days, NATO's generals were going to be pushing the nuclear button because we just couldn't hold off this massive Russian conventional attack. It turns out that a whole bunch of that wasn't true. The conventional order of battle accelerated what the Soviets could bring forward just amazingly. And in the end, even the army sort of fessed up to, yeah, well, that wouldn't really happen, but it was really good for budgets. And it was really good for weapon sales. So the myth was propagated. That was our side of things. So we accelerated the rate at which the Soviets would be getting divisions forward and painted this picture of being incredibly outnumbered early on. Turns out that wasn't true at all. And the evidence for that comes from two places. One of them is our own experience in the Gulf War. So we activated 5 National Guard brigades, which was the moral equivalent of activating Category 3 divisions for the Soviets. And one of them managed to get over there in 6 months. So that wasn't very good. And we think that the Soviets would have the same experience. The second piece of data comes from the Soviet side of things, which is they activated a Category 1 division during that brief war with Georgia. It had older equipment, T-62s, but it was supposed to be a war-ready unit. And it headed off to the border within 24 hours. It left a steady debris trail of T-62s all the way to the border. 200 kilometers from its base, it actually reached the border. 1/3 of its tanks had already broken down. If you run the math, that was 6 hours of driving. No combat, just 6 hours of driving, and 1/3 of their tanks had broken down. So, and of course, we know from some of the history in World War II, a lot of that was happening to the opening days of Barbarossa. So at any rate, when we modeled all of this, I had this idea that there were going to be an awful lot of extra Soviet units, because one of the other things that we discovered was that the Warsaw Pact had a lot more reserve and mobilization units than we knew about. They'd been very successful at hiding that. So I posited, based on everything I knew before the Berlin Wall fell, that we were going to get overwhelmed. I drank the Kool-Aid, if you will. When we actually did the research and actually looked at the order of battle and then set it up and play tested it, what we found was that in the 88-89 timeframe, the Soviets could pull off a surprise attack, but it was highly likely they would be defending Leipzig and Dresden by the end of it. And so NATO's rearmament program had been very successful. And what the Soviets could realistically bring forward left them in a very awkward position. unless they mobilized everything and brought it forward. Then things looked much better for them, but there was going to be no surprise in that scenario. So with that appreciation, we dialed the game back to 1983, where things are a little more desperate for NATO, but still not nearly as desperate as we had originally thought. So the game today represents 4 scenarios. We have an introductory scenario, which is just a Soviet attempt to conquer Denmark. Then we have the bolt from the blue strategic surprise scenario. Then we have the full buildup where the Soviets bring everything they got, and our National Guard units are beginning to trickle in. And then we have a scenario that is called the War of Nerves, but for those of you who understand this metaphor, it's the boil the frog scenario, where the Soviets attempt to steal a march on us by various pre-war preparations, hoping that NATO doesn't get wise to it and begin to react themselves. Each one of those scenarios can now be played in 1983 or in 1988. And it's fascinating to see the difference that the Reagan-era rearmament program actually wrought on our order of battle and the strength of our units. By 89, we can kick some Russian butt pretty good.
Exactly. And then what I want to do is, the reason I'm sharing the product page here is with some of the changes, I know you did a great job. You've actually updated the content of the product page. So I'm scrolling down here through the game detail. And, you know, this, again, is all updated for everybody. It's got the latest information. Most importantly is what the additional enhancements are that are introduced in this new designer signature edition that you've been working so hard on. And I don't know what about a project team, you know, at least 10 to 15 people with some very active play testers. I've seen some great posts on Facebook, for example, from playtest reports on Vassal. But again, I just want to encourage everybody, you know, just type NATO in the search box at the very top. That will take you to this page. And what I'll do now is I actually want to show, just for a moment, I'd like you to walk everybody through, revisit the game map and the game counter. So I'm going to actually start with the game map really quickly. So let me just pull that up here. It's a PDF, so it's just going to take a moment to load. So we can see it here loading. What I'll try to do is I'll just zoom in a little bit to make it a little bit bigger, show a portion of the map. So maybe you can walk people through what the scale is, remind people what the scale of the game is and what we're seeing here.
Yeah, let's stop about there, because there's the North German plain. The scale of the game, the original game, was 15 miles to the hex and 2 days to the turn. We've kept the same distance scale, so it's still 15 miles to the hex. The map itself was extensively updated, about 160 changes. Now that we have Google satellite photography, there's absolutely no excuse for not accurately depicting terrain. But the time frame changed. So the original game covered the first 28 days of a war. We've cut the time frame for a turn down to 1 day. And so this now covers just the first 2 weeks of the war. This is what's fascinating. We're using loss rates carefully calculated from the Yom Kippur War. So I mean, these are validated loss rates. What we're finding in the playtesting of this game is that one side or the other runs out of an army before 14 days is over. It is just incredibly bloody. And of course, both sides are throwing just a density of weaponry that is at least equal to the Yom Kippur War, if not even more dense. But it is a remarkably fast-paced and bloody game. And the question is, which man is left standing?
Exactly. So again, thanks for giving that background. Would it be helpful for everybody? And I don't think we've really shown this before. I think just recently I added to the website, and we also did an update in the last few days. I was going to show the unit counters. Maybe we can go through some of the counter sheets for NATO. So let's go do that. I'm just going to pull up another Acrobat file, and let me actually scroll up to the very top. And let me see if I can even change this view to more of a full screen mode. And see if that works. So this is good. This is sheet 1 front, Bruce. I'll let you take it away and explain to everybody what we're seeing here.
Okay, so in the original game, both sides deployed divisions. we've made the game far more mobile, far more cut and thrust, which means that ZOCs are pretty easy to move through. If you leave a 15-mile gap in your line, expect the other guy to go punch a couple of divisions through. So in order to give NATO the ability to cover the front, we've broken NATO down into brigades. The order of battle research for this game took me 2 years, and I've actually collaborated with a number of other game designers who are also working on similar projects. But I will warrant that I have found virtually every battalion that ever existed in that theater. So you will see these units, they are, there's a lot of variety, even within the brigades of a single division, because I've done things like figure out whether this brigade was armed with M1s and this brigade over here had M60A3s and M113s, ditto for the Soviets. So I can actually tell you which Polish divisions still had T-34-85s in their OB, which is kind of an amazing thing, but lovingly recreated using the research that came after the Berlin Wall fell. And one other thing that's fascinating is there is a ton of research, which was intelligence reports written by the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency, which have come to light since the fall of the Berlin Wall, really a wealth of information. So for instance, we now know that the Czechs, who fielded 10 regular army divisions with a population base materially lower than the East Germans, who fielded only 6, couldn't maintain their Category 1 division. So it turns out that they were only 75% manned, even though they were supposed to be ready to go for war immediately. So all of that detail has been very lovingly put into this game. I think we're probably about out of time to talk about NATO, but I just want to describe one thing. The rule systems here are predicated on what I believe is the best possible design principle, which is simple rules, but that have interesting, nuanced interactions that produce a lot more complexity. It's not complexity of understanding the rules, but the way they interact makes the game a lot more interesting. I put a lot of care into producing effects like that.
I appreciate that. So we have some questions that have come in, and also I've shared some comments. So let's go ahead to some of the questions, Bruce, that you can answer.
Cool.
So let's go here to Eric Farrago asked this question. If you can't see the question, I'll be happy to read it to you.
Yes, I can. It works well.
Okay.
So yes, but I want to be very careful here. The original air game was based on a computer simulation that I built. I have altered the simulation based on what we know today, which is primarily that the Soviets weren't nearly as ready to sortie as they claimed and we believed. However, the original game was built to be playable in a single sitting, and that was a design objective that is really important to me. I built an entire air game for the game, and then concluded when we play tested it, there was no way we were going to be able to play the land game and the air game in a single sitting. So we have gone back to this concept of air points. So yes, the air points are updated. A whole new concept of interception by airspace has been introduced. And the computer simulation will show ebbs and flows based on different strategies. So for instance, NATO's ground support drops sharply in the middle of the game because NATO is busy pounding the snot out of Soviet airfields. And then when they're done with that, they come back. That shows up, but you don't see that except in the impact on the actual points that make it through to the ground.
Great. And then we have this question from Jason Lindsay.
Yes. Okay. So that's a great question. The chemical rules have been extensively updated. And so we've now got persistent and non-persistent chemicals, and their deployment is absolutely fascinating in the game. For instance, we've discovered that persistent chemicals are extremely effective defensively, and what the Soviet player often ends up doing is laying as much by way of persistent chemicals as he can to screen off the Fifth Corps to prevent them from attacking back up the Fulda Gap. I want to talk about the nuclear rules for a second too. I was actually adamantly against nuclear rules because I don't know how you have a game when the first 24 hours, each side fires off 2,000 nuclear warheads, which is almost enough to target every company in the theater. But my players really insisted. The playtesters said, Bruce, the threat of nuclear weapons has got to be in here. So we came up with something that I'm really very happy with. Either side can initiate a nuclear strike, and it's going to be deadly, but it'll just take out one hex. At the end of that nuclear strike, you roll a die. And if you roll a 1, you've just initiated a strategic nuclear exchange and caused the annihilation of the human race. So you've just lost the game. If you initiate a second nuclear strike, you've initiated Armageddon on a 1 or a 2. So you get the idea. Your 6th nuclear strike will initiate Armageddon for sure. Now, so what happens is when a player is already badly losing the game, he can reach for the nuclear button. And what we've seen happen is the Russians win a decisive victory if they can get a unit over the Rhine. And so at that point, the NATO player is going to lose decisively. What does he do? He nukes the bridgeheads. Now, he might initiate a strategic nuclear exchange, or he might just save his butt. So the nuclear rules, they seem to work really well, but as a desperate last resort.
Excellent, excellent. So let's go to some more questions that I have for you here. Here's a good question from Joe Youst about the air game, component of the air game.
So no, that's a wonderful question. Because we've had to abstract out the air game, there is a strategy, but it's pre-baked and you don't get to change it. Now, one of the things that I would love to do, and we'll see if Compass will be interested in doing this, it will largely be based on how many copies of the original game sell, but we have put into the game everything that we need to add an air game on top of it. And so if we have enough sales to justify it, we'll add a full air module. What I would just ask you to understand is at that point, you're looking at a weekend to finish 2 weeks of play, not a single sitting.
Got you. And then as Martin mentions here, I've seen a lot of interest. People have a lot of background on this game project already because I've talked about it so much in previous sessions and the research you've done. So it's not too uncommon that I get comments or questions like this about everybody's really interested in the order of battle and the research you've uncovered. Some people have even asked, are you going to do some type of a guide, a booklet or guide that really gets into the whole order of battle of what it was like during the Cold War era in Europe. So just want to let you know we're getting all kinds of requests around the data that's going into the game.
Yeah, and I'm actually happy to share that. So we'll figure out, I'll probably be starting a Facebook page shortly for NATO, and I will post the complete order of battle. There is information down to the battalion level on the group of Soviet forces Germany. I have not found sources that take me down to the battalion level for any of the Western military districts. Somebody says, I want the air module. God, do I want the air module. Very simple description, but NATO divided its sectors into Baltap, which is the Baltic, West Germany, north of the Elbe, and Denmark. And the primary job of that group was 1, not to lose Denmark, and 2, not to let the Soviet Baltic Fleet get out into the North Atlantic. So that's one air defense zone. And then you have Northag and Centag covering the North German plain and southern Germany. So the concept here is that we will divide each player's air assets, which in the air module would be real units, into those 3 sectors offensively and defensively. And so I think I can come up with a pretty realistic game based on surprise using different sectors to see what gets through. And then, yes, you would have the choice. Am I going to go counter air and mainly strike the other guy's airfields, or am I going to focus on his ground forces? And there is an existing interaction in the game between chemical weapons and the air. So the Soviets do have the ability to spend some of their chemical munitions points plastering NATO's airfields, and that does reduce NATO's air. The NATO side has their own option, which is they can nuke the bridges over the Vistula. Now, they're risking Armageddon to do it, but if you get away with it, the Russian supply has been crippled. So there's a bunch of different interactions in the game.
Well, I appreciate you answering all those questions. Some great questions from everybody that's here in the live session. So thanks to everybody for your questions about NATO. I hope everybody feels like you've got a nice update as far as how the game's looking. Now, you'll notice NATO did not appear on our release schedule through July, but I can assure you it's very close. It's this close to almost having made our schedule. So we're definitely looking at a release date, definitely looking at release this year. I want to even say as much as later this summer. So it was just under that cutoff for July, just to play it safe. So again, I hope everybody, I think that was a great overview, and the questions from all you helped as well. So what I want to do is take a moment to actually segue now. We're going to keep Bruce here with us, and he's going to help us do a pre-order announcement. So that's always a lot of fun. I haven't done one in a few months, right? It's been a while. So I'm happy to do that. And our schedule doesn't show the pre-order announcement up yet either. So this will be brand new. So again, I'm really excited about this new edition, a designer signature edition, as you can see here, of Air and Armor, which comes from West End Games. So I'm going to give you a moment, if you'd like, to just sort of quickly introduce everybody to the game while I actually show the product page. I'm going to just quickly go here and bring up the product page. So that is now live on screen. So if you do a search for Air and Armor, or just actually go to pre-orders page like I'm doing here, and you'll see it's the first item on the list because we do it by most recent release, and just click on it. And again, it's available for pre-order now. And it's got a lot of illustrations. We'll go through some of these components. People will notice right away, wow, there's a lot of stuff already available to show. Looks like you've made some really good progress with this, Bruce. So let's share with everybody. Where are we at? Tell us more about Air and Armor as an introduction, what this game's all about and where it came from.
Okay, so way back when, SBI published a quad game called Modern Battles. And one of those Modern Battles was the engagement of the 8th Guards Army and the U.S. 3rd Infantry Division around Würzburg. I was a young teenager at the time, loved the game, thought the game system sucked, and spent 8 years developing this game as a hobby. It was published by a very small publisher, West End Games. It only sold 5,000 copies. They didn't have much by way of retail distribution, and it's been out of print for a long time. It got a 7.5 on Board Game Geek, which for a mainstream game is really something.
I was surprised. I didn't know it was such a high rating. I had to go look at it myself. So yeah, it's got some very favorable player comments about the system. That's for sure.
Yeah, so it was designed to look at just the place where tactical and operational meet, which is an unusual scale. It's very focused on combined arms operations, not just infantry and armor, but air and armor. And the game simulates what would happen around Würzburg if the 8th Guards Army came through. And the NATO side of things is the 12th Panzer Division and the US 3rd Infantry Division, with supporting help from the Canadian 4th Mechanized Brigade, which is great fun. The Canadians always won the annual NATO tank gunnery competition at Grafenwöhr. There were a bunch of kick-ass dudes. But this game is highly asymmetrical. The Russians play one game system. The Americans play another game system. Each one of them has their own strengths and weaknesses. Probably the thing I'm most proud about for this design was that I got a call from a U.S. Army officer 20 years after it was published. And he said, Bruce, do you know that there is still a cadre of ex-U.S. Army officers who get together all over the world to play your game, because we agreed that it was far and away the most realistic simulation of those days, and we relive our glory days replaying this game. So I'm very happy that Compass Games has picked this up. And I'm going to steal a march here and say, not only are we republishing Air and Armor, but we're going to extend the system. So we are looking at producing another game for British Army of the Rhine,
Yes.
I'm very excited. I have always wanted to do that. So we'll the Würzburg area. Can we show the map for a sec? Do we have the ability to pop that map up?
Yes, absolutely. Let me go ahead and do that really quickly. I'll get it ready. I just have to switch gears here. Actually,
Yeah. Okay. So I'll cover for you. But
I have the back of the box. I want to, if that's okay to show this.
Yeah.
Can you walk everybody through? Again, this is on the website, so we don't have to get too detailed. So, we've made great headway on this project. We're going to show a lot of components. We're going to show the map, the counter sheets, everything. So counter sheets are actually at the printer already. So that's probably a shock to everybody. I was not joking when I said there could be some pre-orders that get released within 6 months of announcement. And this is a title that falls in that range, in that time range, because you've been working on it. So you can see some of the details here. You can call out some of the fine points, and then I'll go to the game map right after that.
Well, so again, incredibly detailed research down to the company level. So the order of battle has been much updated. We now know a lot more about what the Soviets had, but even some of the NATO units had some tweaks to them. I completely redid the values. We learned a lot about the relative values of weaponry from some of the subsequent engagements, such as Desert Storm, about what actually did work and didn't work by way of weapon systems for both sides. The map has been redone with brand new artwork, and we were able to put all the tracks on the map, which is great. So there's not a lot of futzing around. In the original game, you had to write down your commands because the Soviets pre-planned their missions. With Air and Armor today, everything's on the map, and so you just place a counter, and there's your mission. As you can see from this is relatively close terrain. There's a lot of heavy and light woods, a lot of hills. When we go to the British Army of the Rhine, the terrain will be much more open. Which will obviously be an advantage for the Soviets as long as they can maintain air superiority. Not such an advantage if they can't, and there will be some scenarios where they won't have it. But the scale here is 1 mile per hex, and the time frame is just 2 hours. So there isn't range fire at this scale.
Yep.
Units are attacking adjacent units, but there is an incredible amount of tactical detail in the chemical warfare, the electronic warfare, the command system, your ability to call in or fail to call in artillery, helicopters, air. Very detailed air game in this for those of you who like air. And I've been working with a Brit by the name of Lee Brimacombe Woods, who is an expert on NATO air. So he's also made a wonderful contribution to the air game. And in fact, I changed quite a bit on his recommendation. I think the artist did a wonderful job. It's difficult to see at this scale, guys, but those are not actually unit silhouettes. They are lovingly built unit pictures with incredible detail. So a lot of fun. But the art of fighting in air and armor is that you can see all the units that the other guy has, but you have no idea what he has. That unit can be a dummy, it can be a company, it could be a battalion, it could be an entire regiment. You don't know. And so this game is all about deception, it's all about ambush and surprise. And so I'm really happy because the hidden intelligence is very simple, but you can win a game with vastly inferior forces by outmaneuvering and outthinking your opponent. To quote that lovely Civil War general, Nathan Bedford Forrest, the guy who wins is the guy who gets there firstest with the mostest.
There you go. And then this is sheet number 1, of course. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just scroll through to the second front of the second sheet here.
Yeah.
So let me, that's the sheet 1 back. So here's sheet 2 front. So we have some units along
the now you can see the Soviets at the bottom.
Yep, you can see the Soviets at the bottom. And then, of course, some of the game markers included and some of the things that can be brought into play. And then I think we have, I'm not mistaken, we have this third sheet, if you want to explain quickly what we see here on the
Yeah, so here we're looking at the some of the step markers that would be hidden underneath the units. We're looking at the different mission markers. There are different hasty attack, assault, reserve, march, different missions that the Soviets can pre-plan. The Soviets deploy the 8th Guards Army. And so you're looking at 3 Soviet motor rifle divisions. You're looking at 1 Soviet Guards tank division and 1 East German motor rifle division. So that's great fun. And then you've got a Panzer division, a US mech infantry division, and the Canadians, and 1 HSB, Heimatschutzkommando Brigade, which is the German National Guard. So it's quite a mix-up.
And I've got more markers here, so I just want to show this. But I want to get to is I really like how the displays came together for this game. So again, I'm showing some more of the counter sheets front and back.
So John, on this, one of the things that you'll see mines, you'll see obstacles, you'll see improved positions.
Yep.
Engineering is a huge part of this game. Both players have a lot of engineers, and unlike most games where engineers are just little placeholders and cannon fodder, you will live or die by how well you use your engineers, because they dig entrenchments, they put up obstacles, they breach obstacles, they build bridges, they blow bridges, they lay mines. The engineers have a huge role in this game, and they're great fun.
And I want to tip my hat, like Eric Farago just said online, great job by Bruce Urian. Bruce, you've actually teamed up with Bruce. You've done both NATO with him that you're wrapping up now, and now Aaron Armour. So you two have really, I know how well you two are working together, just seeing all the developments and how everything's coming together. So really exciting. Speaking of Bruce Urian, I really want to show the displays that he created. So let me go ahead and pull up these charts. Maybe again here, I just love how these came out. So I'm going to go ahead and just show these in full screen view if I can. Let me just make sure I pick the right thing here. I'm having trouble finding the right option. It's under view, I believe, but here we go, full screen mode. So maybe you can explain to folks what we're seeing here, and I'll focus here full 100%.
So hold that shot for a second, and then we can go in. So what's fascinating about this is you build your own units, and this is where some of the combined arms comes in. So you will be told in the game, as you can see here, that the 3rd Brigade has 3 tank counters, which comprise 4 companies, and that it has 5 Bradley counters, which comprise 8 companies. But you determine how many steps, how many companies go in each one of those individual units. You've got plenty of dummies as well. And so you build your own brigade and you deploy your brigade, and the other guy has no idea what you've done or where it is. The game has a rich set of rules around reserves and reaction. So you may have a pretty skimpy front line, but if it gets hit somewhere and you've got the reserves, they're going to move up and pound the snot out of the attacker. But they won't if the other guy's electronic jamming means that you can't hear that cry for help. And you won't be reacting those reserves if the Soviets have just hit them with an airstrike. So there's a lot of back and forth in this game. And like NATO, it's a game that's built on cut and thrust. And the best defense is far and away a good offense.
So again, just all the like everybody's seeing. Like I was not joking. This thing has made such great progress, and you've covered some of the enhancements already made to the game. And this wasn't involving a complete redesign, or the order of battle didn't impact the play balance, given the scale to the point you had to consider a whole new era, different year. And so this one really moved along very quickly. And like I said, we're going to be seeing this release not far behind the heels of NATO, to be honest. And again, we're talking a new pre-order announcement that's going to be for this year. So very, very exciting news indeed.
Yeah, I'll eat my hat if this isn't available for sale in early Q3, guys.
There you go.
We're that close.
We are that close. So again, just a reminder for everybody, Aaron Armour, there you go. So really excited to have this pre-order announcement for tonight. Bruce, I believe we had a question for you that came in for Aaron Armour. So let's go ahead to that question now. And I believe it's from Fred Schwartz, who's one of your great play testers for NATO. So I believe this is a question about Aaron Armour that just...
Yes, yeah. And Fred, I know exactly what you're asking. Truth in advertising, not really, because I abstracted the recon points. So there isn't ability for one guy's recon points to be taking out the other guy's recon points. And at this scale, those battles would have been, over in a minute or two. A quick volley of fire on one side's recon elements would have been smoking ruins. Obviously, we were trying to make sure that it was theirs. But the scale here doesn't really lend itself to that. I would have had to have put micro units in.
So one thing I'm really excited about is I had a hidden agenda to somehow pull in Joe Youst and get him to say, I want to do a design with Compass and with you, Bruce. So my mission is a success. I can stop the broadcast now. Woo!
Yeah, so Joe, contact me. I collaborate on stuff like this, and if you're interested in working with me on an air, I mean, I've got the bones of an air game for NATO already built, but I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
There we go. So great. Yeah, appreciate Joe making the comment and all the great. Again, hope everybody's excited about Air and Armor now being available. Now, I'm sad to say we do have a bit more of a broadcast to do because there's a lot of stuff to throw into the mix, but we're not going to be able to top what we just did with you, Bruce. So I just want to take this moment to thank you again for all your hard efforts and also with the project team behind NATO and all the great work you and Bruce Urian have done also on Air and Armor and getting that one so far along so quickly. And I know people really appreciate, too, the artwork and how it's all coming together. So it was a pleasure having you on tonight, and I hope everybody enjoyed learning more about those two new designs, and they're all going to be both released this year. So,
and I hope that I get a chance to play some of you at the next live convention when we finally get live conventions. So, looking forward to it. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Really appreciate
God bless.
it.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye. So again, really excited to have Bruce on today. So I hope that was a good overview of the new pre-order announcement for Air and Armor, especially for those that are not familiar with the game. You can definitely check out our product page. So what I'd like to do, just to sort of make up for the false start I had with the sound coming from Facebook on a different browser window, which made things a horrible mess at the beginning, I want to share with you some more pre-order game announcements, if that's okay. So we have more than just Air and Armor tonight that I'd like to announce. So what do you say we get to that? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go off screen. I'm looking off to the side because what I'm doing right now is I'm going to go ahead and turn on and enable some more games that we're going to announce tonight on pre-order. And I hope that sounds good to you. So we're going to it's been a few months since we've done some pre-order announcements. I'm very excited to have Bruce here so we could do Air and Armor. So I thought it's high time that we go ahead and announce some new products as well. So let's go ahead and get ready to do that. I'm just getting the screen ready for that. So here we go. So I'll go ahead and share my screen for the first one. So again, I've just turned this on. So, there's been a lot of discussion online about Combat by Ross Mortel, the designer. It's done extremely well. Tactical solitaire game system. I think a lot of you are probably familiar with Combat. It's available today on our website. So what we're announcing today is Combat 2. It's an expansion for Combat. So you do want to own Combat, the original release. And this expands the game. We, again, on this one, we will be adding product art once it becomes available. But as you can see here, we've got a nice introduction to what is included in this first expansion for Combat. You can read about the details of what we're adding. Obviously, a lot of fine details. Probably the most exciting part is we've got this theme of a campaign game that's now being rolled out. That in the campaign game can consist of as many as 6 different chapters. Because it's all story based. So as you can see here, we've got 6 chapters covering Normandy, the Pursuit, Hurtgen Forest, the Bulge, Siegfried Line, and Germany. And as I scroll through for more of the details of the game, you can see here some of the new features. There's about 8 or 9 major new features being added with this expansion to just grow the capabilities of Combat, to take it into some new areas that really work well for Western Europe, World War II, covering those 6 stories, starting with D-Day. So again, please check out the product page, and I guarantee you, as we get more artwork available, as that artwork starts to become available, we will be sure to get it to you. Just like the original combat game, guess what? Got a lot of components here again. We've got 6 full-size game maps, 3 counter sheets, including 4 1-inch counter sheets. So there's a total of 7 counter sheets, some 1-inch counters, the rest 5/8 inch. So they're all big counters. Getting 2 rule booklets, 2 scenario booklets, etc. So as you can see, we're packing a lot in this box for combat. So hope that's going to be a pre-order that you're excited about. I know we have a lot of fans for combat. So we're really, obviously really excited about that upcoming release. So let's get right back to it. And I actually have another pre-order announcement we're going to go ahead and do right now. So we've done Air and Armor. We've done Combat 2. Now let's pick another one. So let me just go here to enable the page. It's not showing up yet online until I do this. I'm just looking off my screen to make that happen. So bear with me for just about another 5 or 10 seconds here, and we should be good to go. So again, here we have another pre-order announcement that we're going to be making tonight. This one's from Scott LeBrand. So Scott has done some work with Compass already. And here we have a World War I strategic game, an Attrition of Souls. So again, a very good thematic game. I'll show you some of the components. We actually have some of the components that are now available on the website. I've got the back of the box. That's available as well. So again, this is meant to be a light, fast-paced war game using a tile placement system. Scott Librant is also, he was the designer of another title that we did, Colonialism. And Colonialism was one of those crossover games. So you can check out and you'll find Colonialism, I believe we categorize under one of our Euro game entries. So this is one of those crossover games. It's going to have a mounted game board, extra large counters. It's got the game cards, etc. Again, the back of the box, which you can view on the website right now, provides some good information. We've got some draft artwork also available right now. So we've got a draft of the game map for Attrition of Souls that's available. Again, beautiful mounted map to make room for those large counters. And again, it's a game card system. And again, sample counters to give you a little overview of what those look like. Again, these are really nice, large, extra thick, rounded. They already have the rounded corners, the laser cut counters. So as you can see here, really nice artwork we're including right out of the box. And then we've got a sample of the counter sheets, which you can go to. And I'll just pull up some of the sample game cards here. So this is the front face of some of the game cards between the 2 sides, just to give you an idea of this game. So again, another pre-order, brand new pre-order announcement from Compass that we're really excited to have. And as you can see, the majority of the artwork for this one is also already done. So this will be one of those games that will be somewhat fast-tracked as far as getting it published. So again, hope that's going to be an item of interest. And to wrap up the evening, I would like to do one more pre-order game announcement. So let me go ahead, look off screen here. Sorry, I'm not looking at you right at this moment. So I can go off screen and pull up another, and this will be our 4th and last pre-order announcement for tonight, because I'm out of shape. I haven't done this in a while. It takes a lot of effort to go through all these titles and everything. So I've got to get back and interview Compass Games broadcast shape here. So let me go ahead and enable this next pre-order announcement for the website. And then I'll share my screen as soon as I see that we have it available, so we can do a little bit of show and tell with it. And this is one that you might be also somewhat familiar with already. So I'm actually quite excited about this this release as well. So this is actually, if you think back to Command Magazine days, how many of you were back with Command Magazine? So we had I Am Spartacus and Alexandros. Those were the 2 popular titles, ancient level titles that were released in Command Magazine. And again, I've got some information to share with you. We've got the back of the box already on the product page of the website, so you can see all that's available. what's really exciting about this this new edition is we're including all of the expansions. So both games came with some expansions. Alexandros, I believe, came with 2 expansions, and I Am Spartacus came also with an expansion. So on the back of the box, when you read about it, or also on the product page, you're not just getting both games with all new artwork, which you can see from the website right now, but also we're including all the expansions as well. So again, all new artwork for the game that's been done by Newt Grunitz here, as you can see. I just want to share with you quickly, and then we've got the counter sheets available to give you a better idea. These are just drafts of the counter sheets for now, and then also we have drafts of the 2 game maps. So here's the Alexandros game map, and then finally the I Am Spartacus game map as well. So again, a lot of progress has already been made on this. Again, just enhancing the game with the new artwork. You know, the rules have been edited as well. And then you'll see here it talks about the bonus material. So Alexandros has the 2 expansions, Successors, Class of Generals, and Xenophon, March of the 10,000. And then I Am Spartacus also has Legion versus Phalanx, or Pyrrhic Victory. So 2 full games with 3 expansions in 1 box is what we're getting here. And the game is called Alexandros Conquest and Empire is the overall name of the game with I Am Spartacus. So that's the lead title. So again, this is available for pre-order right now from the pre-order page. So as a matter of fact, we sure covered a lot tonight, guys, and I appreciate those that hung with me for the live session. You've given me exactly 1 hour of your time, but here we go. The pre-order page now shows, and we were at 0 for a few months, but now we've got 4 new titles. We've got Aaron Armour from Bruce Maxwell. We've got what I just discussed, Alexandros, which is actually 2 full-size games in 1 box with the 3 add-on expansions with all that bonus material. Scott Librant's An Attrition of Souls. So again, Scott's really good at these thematic crossover games, these light, fast-paced war games with really captures the historic feel at the time. And then, of course, I think the big one that everybody's going to also be talking about now that it's on pre-order is Combat. We're now literally going forward with the next chapter of Combat, which will have 6 new stories per the campaign game line. And again, huge product, 6 maps, multiple counter sheets, etc. So again, all this is available right now on our pre-order page. And as I mentioned, some of these pre-order titles are very far along. You'll see a lot of the artwork, for these games already. You'll see a lot of the artworks already done or final draft status for several of these pre-orders. So we covered the schedule update at the beginning today, and we covered 10 titles that are going to be released through July. So got a lot going on through July, and none of these 4 titles we talked about are part of that mix, but a few of them are going to be coming very soon, just after July, actually, given our schedules and where we're at with finished components. So again, I just want to thank you all. I know it's been a while since we've done a Compass live session, and for those watching the recording, I want to thank you for watching this recording. Again, we'll have more product updates. We do have more news coming, so we will have some more product announcements actually coming quite soon. Also, we'll be announcing, I know we're doing social distancing still, but we do have a commitment for Compass Games Expo. We have a brand new venue, brand new location for Compass Games Expo in November. So I will be talking about Compass Games Expo. And I'm really hoping by November, obviously, that things are much better and we'll be able to congregate together to celebrate the hobby. So I'll be talking about that as well. But please remember, everybody, if you could, stay safe, be careful. If you didn't know about the sale before, it's just our way to say thank you. So we've extended that through all of this weekend until Sunday night. If you see a title that you would like to pick up for a good price, please just go to our website, click on our special sale, and it might say it's ending on May 1st, but we're extending it to May 3rd till Sunday night. So again, it was a pleasure to talk with you guys tonight, and we'll be talking again real soon. Good night, everybody. Thank you again for watching.